match up somebody?
No, I think I did.
I still think they looked in the right place. Amy, Ford. When I think about it, that's what we need to do.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Stiff.
I was wondering if that's why you were holding your neck that way.
Yeah, I got a knot right there.
Really?
I don't know why.
Well,
Didn't do anything to mow the lawn today, and that doesn't have.
I did that today too. And it very quickly became summertime. What was it, last week 60s and 70s, today 90.
Yeah.
I remember a few people complain like, oh, it's too cold for too long. I'm like, listen, don't complain. It'll be 105 before you know it.
Right.
Hello, sir.
How you doing?
Yeah, when that hot weather sets in, it stays.
Yes, it does.
This is what it's like to sit down.
Fortunately, our patio in the back is, our house faces north-south. And our patio sits back a little bit so that there's a couple of lounge chairs that don't ever get sun.
Ours is,
It's perfect.
well, for how we use it, it's perfect because our house faces west. So after 2:30, we're shaded at the back.
Yeah.
And we're great. I love it. I've got a TV on my patio, fan going, so I can use it most of the year.
Yeah.
I would feel a little different if we had a pool back there and wanted more sun and wanted it to be warm, but we don't, so we're good. So for our uses, facing west is perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was someone I talked to that goes to Veterans Parkway in Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
I forgot their names, but they said their name, so I was like, okay.
Well, I know several people there. So
That's
we
where
used to.
that's where I was Sunday, was in Murfreesboro.
Really? Yeah. So we lived in Murfreesboro for several years. We lived in Casey Lane because Veterans Parkway hadn't even been started then. And so we were there. Wilson Adams was a preacher there. He's now the preacher at Veterans. And several families are there now.
Yeah, I don't remember the people's names. But
Yeah.
they said their name was like, yeah.
Oh, there's some great groups, great folks over there.
Yeah. The outpost was packed. They had 150 people there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
That's great.
I thought
That area is just, I mean, it's completely different than when I lived there. It's grown so much. There's
Yeah,
Lou.
Monica went to school there for like a semester.
That's where Stephanie went. I took a couple of classes there because I graduated at Mississippi State. I was planning to go to physical therapy school, but I had some other classes I needed, so I moved there. Hello.
Hello. Oh, wow, everyone's here.
You gotta do all the
Yeah,
tasks.
how are you?
I'll sit over there.
Hello. Come in.
You made it. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. I'm glad it's light enough that you can drive.
Me too.
There you
That's a
go.
good thing about summertime.
Yeah.
It's
Hi.
a little more light.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? World done? House done?
You hear me, Mom?
I'm just gonna lay against this wall.
Should be going to sleep.
You want to do Proverbs next quarter?
That I'm going to.
I haven't looked, so I don't know.
Proverbs and listeners and
interpretation.
Brent's
But I
doing
gotta start
Proverbs
looking
with
at
her
it.
hair.
And there was one
I
on
love listening
the
to
conversions
I
in
wanna do this
Acts.
twice.
Yes.
So I decided just to wait till they get back.
Did you sign up?
No, I was gonna ask him.
Like I said, I need to look at them.
I love listening to Brent. Like,
But they're,
Well, we can do that when we walk through.
How was your weekend? Great. Good. Are you catching
Yeah, we're
on
at
to
the second
things
selection
slowly?
things.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Okay,
Next
good.
to you or?
When
I
you're
saw-
I get that. I get that.
Maybe somebody's Facebook post or something like it was
She does.
well intended at least.
And then to you
Right.
too.
Wow.
Yeah, she doesn't know me that
Yeah.
well.
Or when
Dude,
they
I think she doesn't know me that
tell the
well.
baby, like, yeah, sure. Gotta sign
That's-
the, gotta get signed up for Memphis first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the first step.
nice.
It'll be a lot. Once they get inside.
Go for it.
It changes with
Yeah, I would be too. So I'm gonna go through.
Hi, how are
my
you?
son
Good, how you doing?
next week
And that's where?
in Indianapolis.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Got a skeleton crew.
Seth, 1 year to go, man.
Huh?
So 1 year to go.
Oh yeah.
Class in front of him graduated today. Well, today, right? Yesterday.
Yeah.
And so yeah, now it's countdown, man.
Yep. May 2020.
The next
So we're gonna.
few months will be the longest
I have to.
because you go straight through to October, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's pretty brutal.
We get like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Summer.
Summertime, everybody else is going to the beach and they're in class. And,
We pick our electives, so
I
mean,
yeah.
shouldn't be that bad, but
yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, and then it gets
Hello.
And I said.
you know, then your first internship, it's like, okay, well, I guess it's your third there. But then it's, you know, you get into those for a while and it's like, I shouldn't be getting paid to do this.
I'm paying to do this.
Yes, you are. But it flies by. Y'all haven't selected your final three yet, have you?
Our third one, but not our fourth or fifth.
Yeah, okay. Where are you going for your third one?
Memphis PG, downtown.
Where is that?
Not
Laura and I were talking about
it's
it
on
today.
Union.
I went to be.
Not on Union, but it's a turn off.
Yeah.
Did my hair today.
I can't
She was
remember.
talking about you.
You're okay. I'm not gonna say too much because we're live streaming.
She's like, it's just so hard.
All right, well,
Gotta be careful.
we'll get started. I was, we were waiting a couple of minutes because it was a little thin in here.
Thank you. Light out.
Thanks, you're so
I meant me.
sweet.
Actually, I just checked the camera a second ago.
He's
Just
learning. He's learning.
make sure the camera was pointed right, and I looked at it and I saw myself, and the first thing I did was suck that in a little bit. Good to see everybody. I hope your week is going well. You two behave. We're gonna pick up on lesson 10, Jesus the Good Shepherd. Before we do, Seth, I'm gonna ask you to lead us in a prayer, please.
All right. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we're so very thankful for this day that you've given us to come here and gather with Christians of like faith to learn more about you and to study your word. God, we ask that through this hour we would take the things we have learned and apply it to our lives and hopefully shine through our actions and through our words to others so we can bring others to you. We ask that everyone be attentive and pay attention and that we can take something from this class. We ask that we would always remember you and be shining lights and examples for you throughout the world. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll put you on the spot a little bit. What were we talking about at the end of our class on Sunday? Anybody remember? I know you've slept since then. Everybody remember?
We compared Jesus the Good Shepherd to elders, and
Yes.
we gave characteristics of both.
Correct. Yes.
What else do you want?
That's very good. And then, I'm clearly fishing, aren't I? Yes. And then we took that to kind of how I think Stephanie brought it up. How how patience is needed for those who maybe younger Christians, new converts, that sort of thing. Her example was how an older gentleman where she used to go to church with was very patient with her, and after time, they talked about some things, and that kind of opened up how patient he was, and how she was more willing to hear the coaching and that sort of thing. And then we kind of transition that to, well, what if it's us, right? What if it is us who has gone the wrong path, we'll say, and become that Christian, turn your life back around, or corrected whatever the problem is. And that's kind of where we left off. And Andy brought up something that I thought was really good after class. He said, it's really important that yes, we're patient with others, and that we forgive others. But the point that he brought up is it's really important for us, if and when we do wrong, not only do we repent, but we forgive ourselves, and then keep doing right at that point. And so he took it back to my example. My example was about disciplining children. There's times when I was probably more forceful than I should have been. Feel bad about that, apologize for that, but you don't stop disciplining the children, right? You still have to do what's right. And there may be times where you have to be forceful. You might have got it wrong that time, but that can't keep you from doing it at all. It can't scare you away from still doing what's right. And I thought that was such a good point that I wanted to bring that up, because, it's one thing to forgive someone else. It's another thing to forgive yourself, and to think about how we're forgiven for so much. We're baptized, or we ask for forgiveness, and we've got this clean slate, and the record that is kept of our sins is washed away and forgotten. And then, but we talked about how we don't have that capacity, right? It's very difficult for us to forget the things we've done. So then, how do you channel that, or how do you get past that, right? And so I guess what I'd like to start with is just ask the question is, and you don't have to tell yourself too much, but if you got off track, strayed one direction or another, were caught up in sin, or wronged someone, and then you right it, you correct it. She chose not to sit with you. That was great.
Well, Eric's coming, and I didn't know if anyone.
Okay. But you make that correction, and maybe other people have forgiven you, but sometimes it's difficult to get past that and think, I guess for lack of a better term, okay, and now I'm not that I'm worthy, but now I'm good to move forward. So just the question is how do you do that? If you're wrought with guilt over something you've done, or a sin you've committed, how do you get past that to continue to do good and do what's right? What do you think? Anybody have a difficult time forgiving themselves sometimes?
I think we have to go back to the example of Paul and look at all the many things that he did, and we know that he was righteous. Yes, I've done things in the past that I've been ashamed of, and it's taken me a hard time to get over it.
Sure.
But God wipes away that sin. He doesn't remember it anymore.
What was his statement about his conscience?
It was clean.
It was clean, right? Because he truly thought he was serving God in what he was doing, right? That was his intent. His intent was not to go against the law, to break the law, to work against Jesus. His intent was righteous. He just had it wrong. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of going back to your kid thing and new Christians, I think the punishment is the word. When you discipline too harshly, it was punishment. Discipline can also be stating the rules or
Sure.
the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would hope that new Christians, you could state things to new Christians or somebody that is weak in a way to present what God expects but then be very patient in them making the change. I don't think we should not approach something that we see as wrong as being patient, because with kids, as you did, when they're young, you tell them the rules, but then you're patient with them to make sure they get it.
Maybe my friend is a struggling alcoholic, and I just get mad. I lose it, and I scream and yell at him, and just let him have it. Say some words I shouldn't say, whatever, right? I realized that next day, cooled off, talked to him. Hey, look, I handled that poorly. I should not have handled it that way. Forgive me for that. It doesn't just stop there. You may now continue drinking, right? It's, okay, now let me explain to you in a better way. Let me show you in the Bible. Let me be a little more patient, show a little more love, but still hold firm to what the Word teaches. That's a difficult thing, and I can say especially in our society today, but anybody at any time could have said that, I'm sure. But it just seems to me that so many more sins are not just being accepted but being celebrated, and so you're expected now to jump on board, right? To just jump on board. It's all good. It's all about love, and as long as people aren't harming you, it's fine. And so how we handle those conversations is really key. It's really difficult, really challenging. Your example of Paul, boy, what a great example. Who should feel worse about what they did than him, right? I mean, he's trying to serve God, but in doing so, he was persecuting people who were actually serving God the way they were supposed to. Right? He got it wrong. He was complicit in the murder of Christians. I mean, it's just a bad situation. But as soon as he was told what was right, flip it. Immediately. That's another lesson in there for us, right? But he could have let that handcuff him, right? Hello, sir. Hello. He could have let that handcuff him greatly in his impact on what he could do going forward. Hello, but he didn't do that, right? Oh, he's going to choose his wife every time. Yeah. Yeah. And so he didn't allow that to hold him back. We looked at the examples of Judas, right? He was so wrought with guilt that he took his own life. What good could he have done for the remainder of his life? Oh, what did Peter do? What did the rest of them do? They spread the word, right? So there was still an opportunity there, but because he wasn't able to forgive himself, he took his own life.
Well, Paul didn't ever forget anything that he did.
No.
And he took it very seriously, but he used it to teach. He used it as an example, saying, look, if I can be forgiven, you can be forgiven. And he used that as a mechanism, as a jumping off spot to teach others. And that's something that we ought to think about as well. Is God has forgiven us. If God has forgiven us, we really don't have the right to pick up all that baggage and put it back on our shoulder.
Yeah, that's a good point. We talked about several weeks ago how we can use our experiences and maybe our own struggles with sin to teach those who are in similar situations or struggling with similar things. And so being able to relate to those that you're teaching is good, or use your story as an example. That's something that Stephanie's talked about that, and how you use your experience. She's counseled at Pregnancy Support Center long ago in Murfreesboro. Young ladies who are going through challenging times, most of them with unwanted pregnancies, and they were navigating, what do I do next? And so having that experience and that understanding of the mentality gives her a group of people that, quite frankly, I probably won't be able to reach as well as her. Very good. Any other thoughts before we dive back into the Good Shepherd conversation? Okay, I want to pick up on page 35. where we're talking about understanding each other. What I want to do is I want to go through these last couple sections, and then I want to look, with the time we have left, we're going to look over at the Psalm 23, because I can't think of a better passage to understand the connection of Jesus and shepherds than that. Here it says, Jesus the good shepherd and his sheep know each other. We talked about that. Over a long period of time in daily association, the shepherd comes to understand his sheep, and the sheep come to understand him. Such intimacy begets mutual understanding. It is in this way that the Lord and his people gain understanding, through the experiences they have together. Jesus talks to his sheep through the words of the Bible. They understand and appreciate his wise ways. In prayer, they express their heart's desires, and in life, they follow his teachings. This intimate acquaintance has but one parallel, that relationship between Father and Son. The goodness of the Lord, combined with his purity and love, gives his words a magnetic appeal. What a foundation this is for a growing understanding and appreciation of the sheep for their shepherd. So this is talking about understanding each other. How is it that we can do that among ourselves here? What are some practical things that we should do?
One of them is a symbol outside of the services together.
Okay. So we're here, at most 4 hours a week. Maybe 5.5 if you add the chatty conversations, which is great. That's a very small percentage of a week. It just is. I have lots of conversations with people about time, how you use it. The conversation of I want to be healthier, right? So I want to work out. I want to get back in shape. I don't have time. Really? Right? I mean, what's the priority? Right? Am I making time? Am I creating time? I watched this. Me, weird examples. I watched an interview with Kobe Bryant a while ago, and it was really interesting because it was talking about his work ethic and how he did things. Famous basketball player who's since passed away. And what his statement was, and another basketball player was there, and he was talking about how he wanted to get in the gym and work out and show people he was there. So he got up at 6 o'clock and went to the gym and started working out. And when he got there, he saw Kobe Bryant already had ice on his knees and drenched in sweat because he had finished his workout. Like, wait, what? He got in there at 4. And his conversation was, he said, if I get in there and I work out from 4 till 6, go get breakfast, relax a little bit, work out from 10 to 12, go get lunch, work out from 2 to 5. I've got 3 times the amount of training that you had, and you thought you were doing good. Right? And that was his point, right? So it's how do you prioritize your life? What you find important, you will make time for. So if you find it important to get to know one another, you will make time for it. It's as simple as that. Other suggestions? Yes, ma'am? Yes, sir.
You can say it better.
I kind of, in reading over this, got the impression that it was talking about getting to know Christ better.
Yes, that was my
Not
next point.
necessarily knowing each other.
Sure.
Each other is important.
Yeah, so go ahead with that. So
How can we get to know our elders better?
how do we get to know Christ better, our elders, right? So what is your suggestion there?
You have to, in order to know the Lord better, you have to know him through the Word. You have to study it. It has to become an intimate part of who you are.
Is there another way? No, I mean, there's really not.
No.
Right? The Word, the Bible, that's what we have, right? That is His Word to us. That is how we understand Him. Simple as that. You mentioned the elders. Yes, sir. How do we do a better job getting to know them?
Not be intimidated.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I mean, really, people are. I mean,
Why?
It's a mystery. when other times, other places, the elders would sit in a room, and somebody that we interact with casually, routinely, all the time come in to talk to us, and they white knuckles, panic. It's like they're in front of the Inquisition. I wish I had an answer.
If
we tried to fix that problem and we didn't succeed.
Yeah. If Andy came down here, poked his head and said, Eric, can you come upstairs and meet with us? Like, that would give you a little bit of, wait, what?
It's like going to the principal's office.
It can feel that way.
But
You're looking at me like it wouldn't feel that way to me. Why not?
I love all our elders.
There you go.
I've known them for a long time. I have had intimate talks with them.
Yeah.
If Andy came around the corner and said, "Hey, come here," I'd be like, "I don't know what needs help with." You know.
Yeah.
Plus, I know I haven't screwed up lately.
I can see that on your face, but that's my point. Is time, conversations, right? History of them showing you're looking out for your best interest, right? It's not hey, we're out to get you. Right? Nobody's that way. If a friend comes to you who has spent a lot of time with you and loves you, and you know they love you, and they've done a whole list of things to help you, and they say, hey, look, we need to talk about something that I'm concerned about, well, listen, right? It just means something different. But it's all about that time and investment in that person and in that relationship. Yes, ma'am.
So that takes me up a notch to a lot of times we're afraid of the elders like we're afraid of God.
Okay.
We can be afraid of God that way too, which is very unhealthy because he doesn't want you to be afraid of him. He wants you to respect him and fear him in a healthy way, but not to be sitting there afraid that, you know, he's going to throw fire at you every time you say a prayer or whatever it is. But one thing that I try to keep in mind is that our elders are going to be judged a lot stricter when that day comes. And not only, I'm not saying that as a, you know, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they know that. And these men are brave enough to know that they are healthy enough spiritually to make very important decisions and very hard, difficult decisions at times with the flock here. And that's a lot of courage, and that's a lot of, I just have a lot of respect for them because of that. Mm-hmm. And they know that every person that they talk to up in that office, it's not a courtroom. They don't want to approach it like that. It may feel like that, but it's not supposed to be like that. But they know that they're going to have to answer to God for every soul that they have tried to lead.
Well, they also
and so
meet you at a coffee shop,
that's what
your
gives
house,
exactly
or wherever you're more comfortable.
That's what gives me peace and comfort, knowing that it's not being called to the principal's office. I'm being called because maybe they just want to say, hey, Steph, we noticed you're doing a great job with this. Thank you so much for saying da 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 da. You know, it could be something good. It doesn't have to be something bad every time, sure. You know? And so, and if they do need to discuss something more meaty, then they're doing it all in good faith. You know, they're doing it with the best hearts and the best words that they can come up with. And, you know, and that's why I just try to, and that's when I say a lot of times we fear the elders the way that we fear God, and that's not good. Or fear God the way we fear God, and that's just not good. Like, God doesn't want us to come to him afraid and timid and scared and all that stuff. He wants us to be
things that I'm afraid of. Truly afraid of. Let's be clear, I'm not afraid of anything. Okay, not
except for cicadas that are like.
Okay, I screamed one time. It surprised me.
Like a Girl Scout.
You know, things that you're afraid of, you avoid. Right? You're afraid of snakes, you go the other way. I was talking to my mom. She used to live out in the country, and she opened the door, and there's a snake wrapped around a giant rock that was there, and she's like, I'm going out the other door. Right? You know, forget it, avoiding it, right? And so things you're scared of, you avoid. If you're scared of God or the elders, you're going to avoid. And when you avoid, you miss out. Right? You miss out on love, you miss out on compassion, you miss out on teaching, coaching, guidance. Don't do that. And I think you stated this well. With God, of course, there's a healthy fear because He controls everything, right? But it's not I'm afraid. What's up, Doc? Yes, ma'am.
And that makes me think we're afraid what we don't know. So I'll go back to when I came out of the denomination. I had some ideas, and I talked to the other people. I'm a new Christian, and I'm going to go talk to them. They go, you are? So why?
That's what they're there for.
I know, but it's funny. It's like the church
Yeah.
has this fear, and I didn't know I was supposed to be afraid of the elders.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, isn't it true that kids are it just goes that way? So, but I think the answer is knowing them. So if you can bump arms with them, chit chat with them, you're going to be a lot less intimidated to go and talk to them, and they'll talk to you.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing that I do think our elders do great here is I see them going up and high-fiving the kids in their congregation. Like they are reaching
Try to create
out.
that relationship early.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're going out to these kids and they're high-fiving them and they're handing out candy and they're telling them funny jokes and they're establishing some type of relationship with them from a very young age. So it's all about how we present our elders as adults. You know what I mean? Like if we teach our kids to be afraid of them, they're going to be afraid of them. And they're going to be afraid of God. And they're going to be afraid of Christianity. They're just going to be afraid of everything all the time. And that's not good.
Very good. All right. He goes on to talk about Jesus' desire to save here. He says, though many shepherds have been motivated by the welfare of their sheep, Jesus doubtlessly manifests the greatest concern for the good of all. Verse 16, and this is in that reading we did on Sunday of John 10, portrays him as the impartial gatherer and encourager of all to enter his fold. Those of Israelitish, I don't even know if that's a word, ancestry, would have a place in God's sheepfold, and the Lord Jesus planned to bring others, the Gentiles, into the fold as they were willing to hear his voice. His plan was that there be one fold and one shepherd. I want to skip ahead to, we've talked a lot about others. Go ahead and turn to Psalm 23. Take a minute to go through that. All right. I'll just read through it first. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. All right, so just a few verses here, 6 verses. And I just want a quick synopsis in the year 2022. What do you picture in your life in this time as related to what this says? It starts by saying, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. What is that describing, and how does that relate to us?
Provides what we need.
Provides what we need.
Provides security for us as well.
So here, I shall not want, start off, meaning I'm not going to go without the things I absolutely need. He makes me lie down in green pastures. What is that?
Rest.
That's right. Right? That's comfort. He leads me beside still waters. What is that?
Safety, calmness.
Safety, calm, drinking water.
I also heard sheep don't like rapid moving water, so he knew the right place to take them to be nourished.
Unless they've recently been sheared, what does sheep have around them? Wool. You ever got a wool blanket or something wool wet? It gets heavy and it sinks. So yeah, raging water catches the sheep. That might be it. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. That seems pretty straightforward, right? Leads me in paths of righteousness. We've heard righteousness described as right wayness, going the correct way, doing the right things. Yes, sir?
That word restore,
Yes.
that implies that we had a sense of that before. We had a peaceful and comfort soul, and we lost it someplace. And he restores our soul.
Yeah. You describing that makes me think of those who restore old cars, right? At one point it was amazing, and then it sat in the barn for 40 years, and it's not so amazing, and then you take it out, and you polish it, you paint it, you do whatever you need to do, and now look at it again. That's a good call out there. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. What is the valley of the shadow of death? And why are we walking through it?
I think it's more than just death. It's any scary place, and there's a lot of them here on earth.
Okay.
Just a season of, anxiety or mourning or grief or anything like that. Usually when they talk about a valley, you're feeling down, you're down underneath, and there's walls surrounding you, but then going up on the mountain, that means you're in a good place,
That's a good point. If you're down in a valley, you look around, and it can feel like claustrophobic, right? Things are coming down on you. Another version says or the valley of deep darkness, right? Just think of a dark place. And maybe you're stuck in sin and you don't see a way out. And maybe so many things have challenged you, and gone against you that it may not feel like there's much of a hope. Were you about to say something?
Yeah, Psalms 138:7 says, though I walk in the midst of trouble, you preserve my life. You stretch out your hand against the wrath of my enemies, and your right hand delivers me.
So that's a neat picture that paints.
Yeah.
Right, stretch out the hand against the enemies, and your right hand
We all
delivers
go
me.
in scary places, but then you're like, in places where we don't exactly want to be, but we have to go through it, And then you just have to remember where you are, what you're there for, and you're going to get through it, So
Yes,
I think about things.
Yeah.
I was just going to back up to the second part of verse 3 there.
Okay.
He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Okay.
And that for his name's sake, that's one of those phrases that we kind of float over and don't really think about it. But what does that really mean? And it means because of the nature of his character, because
of
he is
who
who
I
he
am
is.
is what he's saying there.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. If he is who he says he is, then he can't not lead you in the paths of righteousness. Sorry for the English teachers in here that I just did the double negative. But you know what I'm saying. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That verse that you just read, I pictured comforting you, well, it was left hand. Comforting you here, fighting evil off here. Right? It's a neat picture.
Well, I have a note on mine that
Yeah.
says the rod and the staff are used to protect you and feed off, but they're also to grab you and get you out of dangerous places too.
Yeah, it says your rod and staff, they comfort me. Okay, and why would they comfort? Say that again.
Well, he uses the rod also to grab you out of a dangerous place that you're not supposed to be in too. It's not just to beat off a wolf, it's to grab you and bring you back to a safe place.
So there's a lot of uses of that staff for shepherds, right? Weapon for protection against wolves, like you just said, right? Fight them off, whatever you got to do to protect your flock. The other is with that crook, they would use it to pull sheep or even lift them out of holes, things like that, hook around, pull. This sounds weird, but we've talked about this before, and occasionally if there's a sheep that was too much out of line, they would use it, hit the sheep with it, even break a leg to keep it from running off, to protect it. And so, I'll picture that as something that might be used to discipline me, and that comforts me. Yeah, it does. Eric's nodding his head. You want to make a point with that, or you just agree?
Well, I mean,
it'll comfort you if you know, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Do your thing.
If you have in your head, they have my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
God has my best interest at heart. The elders have my best interest. My parents have the best interest. If you have that in your mind, then when they lay down the law and say, you're not doing this.
Mm-hmm. My father disciplined me plenty, right? And I'm now being older and having kids myself. I'm very thankful for every bit of it. I never felt like it was undeserved. Let me rephrase. Looking back,
At the time.
it was totally deserved. At the time, of course, it wasn't me, it was Jason, my brother, right? But I'm very thankful for the lessons that taught me and the trouble that kept me out of, the path that put me on, and the opportunity that I have now to continue that on with my children.
So, when the sheep are disciplined, when your children are disciplined, when you were disciplined, I would hope that my children found comfort in discipline, at least for this. Don't laugh. For this one reason. So, you're not going to find comfort if someone just walks up and beats you to beat you.
No.
That's not going to comfort you. That's not going to be a good thing, and you're not going to appreciate that.
Yep.
But like you all said, if you know that person has your best interest at heart, I always tried to explain why discipline was occurring, just so that they would understand. Number one, not to do it again. Number two, why it was so important to, and then to reinforce that thought, there might be discipline that goes along with that, right? Mm-hmm. It also told my kids that I cared, that I cared about them, right? If a kid can do whatever a kid wants to do, or a sheep can do whatever a sheep wants to do, and no one gives a crap, then no one cares. Yeah. No one cares about you. Just go run out in the middle of the street. You're good. Bye.
And
Have fun.
as adults who have been through that, we understand that.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important for us to explain that to the kids.
But kids get it too. They really do. Whether they want to admit it to you or not, they totally get it. They do. They do. I just don't believe that they don't. I think that my kids may have not liked it this one at the time. They may have, thought bad things about me and wished bad things upon me at the moment. But I think at the end of the day, they were like, Dad wants what's best for me, right?
But like you said, you take the time to explain.
Yeah.
You take the time to have that conversation.
Always.
Right? And not just discipline, but
well, if you just beat something to beat it, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, no, that doesn't.
Yeah, you're going to do exactly the opposite of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And then just one other psychological study. Kids want boundaries. Instead of them worrying about, now, what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. If they know what they're supposed to do, they feel a lot more protected and safe. Yeah. And I think that's the way the sheep feel, too.
That's why they always try to push those boundaries, too, just to make sure they're still there. Oh, yeah.
What makes you say that?
Matt said not his.
My children. Not my kids.
Do yours push boundaries already? Is that already happening?
I just look at mom.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Okay, a couple questions here with the final 4.5 minutes that we have. Let's see. Turn over to John 9. The question here is, what events in John 9 distinguish Jesus as the Good Shepherd from the Jewish leaders as negligent shepherds? And the point there is they were looked at as leaders. They were religious leaders. And so what happened in John 9 that separated the two?
A blind man receiving sight and then kicking him out because he said it's Jesus.
Blind man receives sight. So what happened in that scenario?
He didn't believe who he said that he couldn't possibly have happened because nobody had ever done it.
Okay.
Right.
Yep, there's one. So verse 1, as he passed by, he saw a blind man And the disciples ask him, hey, who sinned, this man or his parents? So the point that, or their understanding, was that being afflicted by something like he was afflicted to, or by, was due to the fact that he sinned.
And he healed him on the Sabbath, which was
that's
the real problem.
That's exactly what I was getting to. So the Jewish leaders, not okay with that. Right? It's the Sabbath. You can't work, you can't do anything, right? Jesus' point, basically is like what's better, right? Not do anything and observe the Sabbath, or actually heal somebody. To me that's along the lines of, just ignoring people. I drive by the buffets who are broke down on the side of the road because I got to get to church. Stop and help them. All right? Pick them up. Come on, let's go. Or let's change your tire. Whatever we got to do. Right? Don't be so tied into the
rules.
The exact rules of everything that you forget the heart of it all. Yes, ma'am.
That's what Jesus meant when he said, "I would have mercy and not sacrifice." That's kind of what that reminds me of.
Stephanie, she set me right. I said set me right. We were in Chattanooga and for a gymnastics competition, and we were going to get up that morning and drive to Murfreesboro and go to church there because it was on the way back home. And you gain that hour coming back from Eastern time is going to be real easy. Get up, we're going to the truck and find out it had been broken into and stuff stolen, and so frustrated. And we were working through that, navigating that whole process, and we finally get in the car and take off, and I'm on my phone and I'm calling people. I'm trying to figure out, we're not going to get there. Can we get here? Can we do this? And I'm sweating. And she's like, God knows you tried, right? That was the intent. Something happened and that got in the way. Don't beat yourself up too bad over it. So, thanks for the reminder. But I think that's something that we can get stuck into, is just, again, you miss the forest for the trees kind of thing. Let's see, we answered number 2 pretty much already. And 3, we answered 4. We talked about 5. What things related to the work of an elder, since we talked about elders a little bit, are accomplished when he teaches, whether preaching or Wednesday night or home study? So what things related to the work of an elder are accomplished when they do that?
He fulfills the command to feed the sheep.
Feed the sheep? Yeah. Even that teaching, and he gives a couple different examples here, but it's feeding the souls, right? It's feeding the souls of the flock. That's the goal, is to lead these souls to Jesus and keep them on the path. And so if you don't have time to actually teach the Bible, you're kind of missing out on that. So thankfully they do that very well here.
I think it's also an opportunity for people to see them and get to know them. You don't really get a one-on-one necessarily, but you have a better understanding of what they are.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we will be on lesson 11 on Sunday. Last I heard, still planning to come back on Friday?
Good.
Y'all enjoy your trip? Oh, thank you. Did you guys so much fun?
Yeah, I'm not on social media anymore, so I don't know.
Oh,
I know you like took videos.
Posted something and.
Any last words before I turn this off? Bye, everyone.
Let's do it now.
I walked in late.